Okay, last week I told this story about Jesus healing the Roman centurion. And these sets of stories that I'm going through are some miracles that Jesus performed after his big Sermon on the Mount. He's come down and he's talking with his disciples. The story I'm about to tell you is about Jesus calming the storm, and it's in Matthew chapter 8. And I'm going to start in verse 18 and then jump to 23 through 27. So, here we go. So Jesus, as he was looking around at the crowds just building around him by the minute, he told his disciples, I've got to get to the other side of the lake. So he got in the boat and his disciples followed him. And immediately a great storm arose around them with waves crashing into the boat. And this whole time Jesus is asleep. So his disciples run to him and they say, Master, save us. We're going to drown. Save us. And Jesus wakes up and he looks at him and he says, Oh, you of little faith. Why are you so afraid? So he stood up and he rebuked the winds and the waves, and immediately there was a great calm, a great peace. And the disciples looked at each other and they said, Who is this man that even the winds and the waves obey him? And so, what need do you think Jesus met here?
They were about to die, or they thought so he took care of that. I mean,
Physical needs.
They were fearful, so he met their need of being afraid.
Yeah, he provided them peace that wasn't there before. And this whole time that the disciples are talking to him and he's talking to them, it's still stormy out. So I can think about times in my life where the storm is just raining down on me and Jesus is talking to me. It's still going on. And that just, it baffles my mind to think about that he can be calm in the middle of a hurricane. Do you think this storm came because the disciples had disobeyed?
I think that's a possibility, but then again, and it could have been Jesus' purpose to perform a miracle so that they would see it, but it's also a possibility that it was just a force of nature that happened, and they happened to be there when it did, and Jesus met the need.
Yeah.
I mean, storms happen. I mean, they're out there. It doesn't say in the story that there was any connection to there being that they had done something, and so that's why that storm came up. I mean, it just sounds like it's just something that just happened.
Yeah, and some research I've done was showing that storms pop up on that sea all the time. And so, I do think that God used this situation, Jesus used the situation to teach a lesson. And what lesson do you think he taught here?
Well, for one, he's got control. He's bigger. He's got more power than the nature.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, he has power over it. It listens to him. They called him master, but they were more right than they realized, I think.
Yeah.
They had him with them, therefore they didn't need to be afraid.
Right.
Whereas we have him with us, and still, sometimes we're afraid.
Yeah. I mean, it shows me that I can rest confidently in his will. So, what does this story reveal about who God is?
God, meaning like Jesus?
God and Jesus, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that he does care for us. I think Jesus would have loved for the disciples to have been more mature in their accepting that, oh, this is going to be okay. So therefore, I think it shows us that God would like for us to be more mature and not throw in the towel as quickly as we do sometimes, but instead to rest in the storm, knowing that he is with us in the storm. So it's a message to me to don't panic, go to him.
Yeah. Well, like what Brian was saying earlier about God is the master, he is the creator, he's in control of it.
And we wouldn't want to be under anyone else but him.
Right. Yeah. So he calmed the storm here. How did he calm the storm?
to.
He just spoke. And it heard. So he can speak truth into our life if we're listening. And then in light of who he is and what he's done, who are we?
Or protected. I mean, he protected them. Then, I mean, and he's the same with us, then he's going to protect us. In the end, I mean, it got brutal in there, I'm sure, getting whipped around and getting wet, probably the least of their issues.
Yep.
But the thing was, it was still okay.
Yeah.
He didn't leave either.
Yeah.
When we're created in God's image, and therefore He does care for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't, again, we're not out there in that storm by ourselves.
Right.
But because He is God in Trinitarian form, we are created in His image, and He's going to protect that.
Yeah. So we've kind of already touched on it, but so now what do we do? What can we do? Or what should we do?
But it's tough when we are in that, maybe not physical, maybe sometimes physical storm, that we do panic, just as they did. That's our human nature. But,
And it was he rebuked him, but he still took care of it. He didn't like, oh, you screwed up, forget it.
Right.
You know, he didn't do that. Sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I mean, it is.
no, exactly true. And I think just the fact that we probably need to, if we can't immediately draw that sense of He's in control, at some point as quickly as we can, to calm down and just seek the Father and seek the Son and seek the Holy Spirit and let them speak through us to know the storm may continue, but we will be carried through the storm.
And just like I teach my son, take a deep breath. Well, thank you for listening to my story today.